What I'm going to show you today is how to create different features for your gargoyle using slabs. Now a slab is basically taking some clay and rolling it out flat, and you have to be careful of a few things. You want to make sure that you've got your surface rolled fairly smooth and that it's not too thin, because if you have a piece of clay that's too thin, then it will really easily crack and break off on you. So what I'm going to do to start off is just show you some of the materials that I'm using. I've got my little gargoyle here. I do not have arms and legs on my gargoyle yet. I'm just using him for demonstration purposes. I've got a cup of water. I've got two needle tools. One has the brown wooden handle. The other one is the one I call the pink tool. You can use them interchangeably. It doesn't matter. I've got a rolling pin, an X-Acto knife, and then of course some clay. So I'm going to start out by making some ears. Slabs can be used to create anything that has a flat surface, and my ears are going to be kind of like mouse ears, and they're going to have a nice flat surface. So I'm going to start off by getting this somewhat flattened just with my palm, and then I'm going to use my rolling pin. I'm going to stand up to do this so I can put a little bit of pressure on it. And notice I've got my hands right on top of the roller as opposed to out here on the handles. That way I can put even pressure on what I'm doing. The other thing you want to make sure of is that you rotate your slab of clay while you're rolling it out, because depending on how sticky your clay is, it could very easily stick to the mat. And you don't want to try to cut something out and then have it stuck to the mat. You'll probably destroy it trying to get it unstuck. All right. So I've got my slab of clay. Obviously the size of the slab that you use will depend on the feature that you're making. I'm going to first draw my feature with one of the needle tools and use it somewhat like a pencil. To draw the first ear, I'm going to do a straight line. I'll move these to the side so you can see a little bit better. So I drew a straight line, and then I'm going to draw the rest of the ear. And this straight line here, that is the area that's going to be attached onto the gargoyle. And you'll probably do that with most of the things that you create out of a slab. Alright, so there's ear number one. If it doesn't make sense yet, I'm going to hold it up to the gargoyle to make sure that I like the way it looks, so I'll be able to see how I'm going to attach it. So I'm cutting it out using my X-Acto knife. Okay. And in doing so, I did rough up the edge a little bit, so I'm going to spend some time reshaping it, smoothing it out. It's a lot easier to do that before I attach it than afterwards. Okay. So I'm going to hold this up and see if I like the way it looks. Let's see here. Not bad. I think I'll go ahead and make another one. So to make another one, if I like the way the first one looks, I can take that first one, I can lay it down on my slab, take my needle tool, and then trace around it so that I have two that are approximately the same size and shape. And then I would go ahead and cut this one out and attach it just like the first one. Now when you attach these items, you can do it one of two ways. You could attach it on the straight side here, so I could score and slip right along this edge, and then I could attach it just like this, or I could score and slip along the front edge, and then I could attach it so that the back is laying along the back of the gargoyle's head. But I would have to make sure that I blended this really, really well. Now this is going to be a more secure way to attach this because I'm putting more surface area down. And the more surface area you have that's scored and slipped, the more secure your items are going to be. Let's see. Turn this so you can see it a little bit better. Alright, so I'm going to take the first one off after I draw myself a little guideline just so I know where to make those score marks. I'm going to scratch right along the edge. Scratch along the edge here. A little bit of water. And then I'll press it down. Oops. Try not to tilt your gargoyle while you're working on it. I just did, but try not to do that because you can put a flat spot in an area where you don't want one. It's very tempting to do though. All right, so I'm just blending this on now, and you can see that I'm going to blend that edge down completely so it no longer looks like I attached anything. Looks like it was always part of my gargoyle's head. I'm not going to attach the second one just because this is a demonstration. I don't want to take up too much time. I want to go ahead and talk about a few other things. You can use that same concept to create a wing. And here's how you'll do that. I'm just going to make one. Again, I'm going to start with that single line. Wings are a little bit bigger, so I'll probably need a larger slab space to do this. I'm going to make this look kind of like a butterfly wing, or maybe a bumblebee wing. I always find it helpful to look up pictures of wings. There's lots of different kinds. Alright, so there's the start of my wing. I'm going to go ahead and cut that out and hold it up to see if I like it. And if I do, I can do the same thing that I did with the ears. I can place it down on a slab, trace around it, and then I'll have two that look pretty much identical. Okay, again, after I cut it out, I always spend some time smoothing and reshaping, making sure both sides look nice. And then I can go ahead and look at whether or not I want to attach this. Now once again, I could attach it right along this edge so it kind of sticks up off the surface of my gargoyle, or I could make my score marks along the front here, and again I'd have some more surface area. I actually think I'm going to make these a little bit smaller so it's not taking up the entire back of my gargoyle. So that's why it's a good idea to hold your items up before you decide to officially attach them. Just make sure that you like the way it looks. All right, new wing. I think what I'm going to do is make my score marks along this edge. And to do that, I'm going to again draw myself some guidelines. Make both of them. I'm not making both of them just because this is a demonstration, but you're going to want to make both of them so that you know you've got them the correct size and that you have them in the correct place on your gargoyle before you make your guidelines. Let's press this down gently. Okay. Now I have some guidelines so I know where to make my score marks. I'm going to go in two different directions. And then I'm going to score along this edge. And then some water. Put some water on this side as well. I'm going to press down nice and firm to make sure that those two pieces are stuck together. And then very carefully I'm going to go ahead and blend these edges in. If you want to use a little bit of water to help you do that, you can. It's really important to seal those edges because there's not a lot of surface holding these two pieces together. Wings can really easily break off, so if you have attached wings, you have to be really careful when you bag your gargoyle up from here on out so that you don't bend and break them. All right, so now my gargoyle has one wing. And just some other things that you can make using slabs. You could use the same concept to make teeth. Depending on the shape that you want, you could cut out little triangles or squares or rectangles. And then, of course, score and slip them onto the surface. Don't forget that step. It's particularly important, although it's important everywhere. But with the smaller pieces, those will definitely fall off if you have not scored and slipped them onto your gargoyle. If you'd like to make a tongue, you could actually use a slab or a coil. A coil is going to be in a separate video. But an important thing to know about tongues, if you do make a tongue, you got to make sure that you make it long enough that it actually fits back into your gargoyle's mouth. So if I go ahead and trim this excess off, maybe flatten this out just a little bit more so it's not quite so thick, because I don't want to take up the entire opening of my gargoyle's mouth. And then, again, I'm going to see if I like the way this looks, but you want to make sure you're not just attaching it on to the very end, because that's going to snap off. You want to attach it actually into the mouth. Score and slip as best you can. I know it's hard to do. And then take a tool, any tool that you can get to fit in there, gently press down, kind of like what happens at the doctor when they stick the tongue depressor in your mouth to see if you've got a sore throat or something like that. Press down on the back of the tongue just to make sure that it is well connected in the back, and then you'll have the end that hangs out. All right, that is all for now. Remember, slabs can be used to create any kind of feature that has a mostly flat surface. Coils, which is in another video, that's going to be used to create features that have a more rounded surface. Thanks, all for now. Bye.